matters relating to repairs and or improvements to B County Elections Building and temporary relocation of the B County Elections Office. I understand that, Elections is now, temporarily in the, Mr. Izagiri's, portable office out at the Expo Center, and that we're considering moving them into Commissioner DeWitt and Commissioner White's offices.
Well, all four came up, they can pick which
Mine
one.
is off the table.
Yours is all, okay,
Mine's off the table.
okay.
And Ms. Warnick is with us in,
Hey, Ms. Warnick, how are you?
up here. Yeah. She's on the phone.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Okay, so what's going on? How are the temporary facilities, and what is it you think you need now? Ms. Warnick? Is she there?
This is late.
We actually have not moved into the offices.
It was left the other day that she wanted a little bit of time to decide whether or not we were gonna go out to the maintenance office or we were going to occupy the commissioner's, offices. That's what, it was just kind of left in hold for her to make a decision.
And then it was also about the Toledo Street office again.
Okay.
That was in play again.
So where are we? Do you know?
You know, she put her phone on mute. I don't know if that's affecting communication. Ms. Warnick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there's a lot of reverb.
Yeah, Ms. Warnick, if you mute your, live stream of the Commissioner's Court here.
There we go. Is that
Okay.
better?
Yes. Much.
Okay.
Okay, John Izagiri went and looked at the room that we're gonna put the, equipment in, and he's trying to put a lock on there so that we can move the equipment.
Judge, I have a statement I'd like to read if it's appropriate before we do much further.
Yeah, okay.
Ms. Warnick, bear with me here a minute, ma'am. I've given this a lot of thought, and I have a statement that I'd like to read to the court. This regards the elections building. I'm proud of this Commissioner's Court for putting personal feelings, politics, and third-party influences aside to continuously keep a vision of what is best for the citizens and what is best for B County as a whole. In this instance, I sincerely believe something or someone is intentionally placing a cloud on this elections office temporary relocation process, either as a political move or there is a third party messing in official Commissioner's Court business. Some timelines. We had a meeting on this March 18th, May 7th, May 14th. We've had at least 2, maybe 3 this month. This was brought to Commissioner's attention in January 2021 and possibly sooner. No action. This Commissioner began looking into the building conditions, brought detailed documentation to court. No action. A committee was formed. The committee met on site at current elections office and met at the former sheriff's office building on Toledo Street. Major building contractor superintendent was present and indicated between $100,000 and $200,000 for repairs, plumbing, gutters, air conditioning, windows, doors, electrical. Contractor asked if we really wanted to expend that amount of funds on this 1940s or 50s period beam building. This Commissioner brought Toledo Street site to court, not approved, brought back to court, approved and moved to Coliseum. Due to district court needing space, this was deemed non-starter after Commissioner's Court approval, brought back to court. 3-to-1 vote to move in the small, approximately 12 by 20 portable maintenance building at Coliseum, displacing maintenance staff. Deemed non-starter after Commissioner's Court approval due to no handicap access, no handicap restroom, lack of office space, and no area to hold early elections in building. Brought back to court today. This Commissioner's Court is yanking the elections administrator and staff around with these knee-jerk actions. Go here. No, we didn't research thoroughly. So go there actions. This is not right. It's not right to do this to the staff. Who is the elections administrator? Commissioner Haggard, Commissioner Frias, Commissioner Lenny, Commissioner DeWitt? The obvious answer is no. The election administrator is Ms. Laura Warnick. Since we as commissioners are not trained, selected, nor adept at being election administrators, it would then be reasonable to assume the real election administrator knows what is necessary, both legally and space-wise, to hold elections and properly secure and store equipment. If this court approves rotating 1, 2, or more commissioners from the county courthouse and in turn dictates the election department move into their offices, this action will effectively cut off public contact with these commissioners in the courthouse and require these commissioners to literally work out of a shoebox. For the record, this commissioner's office is not available for this action. Since we began this journey, the air conditioning system has completely failed, resulting in the elections building being open a few hours until it gets hot, staff working remotely, and the possibility of the delicate elections equipment is being damaged by excessive heat and humidity. According to one commissioner, the soft spots can be cut out of the floor and the underlayment repaired, the leaking windows can be replaced, gutters can be installed, leaking doors can be repaired and replaced with automatic opening doors, and the malfunctioning main drain line from the restroom to the street can be repaired by cutting a hole in the restroom floor. Okay, let's think about this. Repairs should be simple, but we have no way of knowing the scope nor extent. There could be a large amount of rotted wood around the windows, floors, doors, and plumbing. And does this include replacing the carpet in the building after all these cuts and penetrations are done? A big concern. If the drain line repairs are more than simply cutting a hole in the floor, and will require replacing the drain line under the building by taking up much of the floor from rear to front of the building, what is a reasonable timeline and cost? The air conditioner replacement bid is almost $10,000 by itself. As we debate and dither, the sensitive equipment remains in the current elections office with no climate control. Heat and humidity may already be damaging the sensitive components. When the equipment is moved to the Toledo Street facility for proper climate control, someone must check on a regular basis to ensure the air conditioner there is working properly. And if it should go out, it's going to need to be repaired. Would not it make more sense, common sense if you will, to allow the elections department to also move to the Toledo Street facility on a temporary basis while repairs are done on the current building? Be reminded, there is an election administrator, Ms. Warnings. She's indicated more than once that Toledo Street facility is her preference.
Thank you. I just make this response to your comments, that I believe initially, once the AC failed, the initial offer and desire was to move the elections administrator's office to Toledo Street, and Ms. Warnix didn't want to do that. If that's what Ms. Warnix now thinks needs to happen, I don't think there's anybody here that disagrees with you. With respect to the other comments, how about this? I just say, I somewhat agree. I understand your timeline and your time frame, but I can't help but disagree a little bit with your intimation. I don't believe anybody on this commissioner court has taken any action or not taken any action in an effort to sway in any political effort at all. I don't believe that, and I don't believe that very strongly. But it is what it is. What is your recommendation, Commissioner?
My recommendation is where we started, that they're allowed to move to the Toledo Street facility on a temporary basis while repairs being made to the current election office.
I don't agree. I don't disagree with that at all. But Ms. Warnix, what is your opinion or request?
Judge and Commissioners, the reason I said the expo when we were doing it because we had already taken the Toledo Street jail off.
That's not the case. So
Okay.
What is your recommendation? What is your request at this time?
My request at this time is for us to move to the Toledo Street jail temporary till my building can be repaired. And that way, no matter how long it takes, we can hold an election or anything that we need to do.
Are there any commissioners that have any objection to that at this time?
The
And so why?
only thing I have to add is there's a huge amount of cleanup, and I don't know where the manpower is gonna come from to clean that place up.
And we're talking about just about the sheriff's office.
Yes.
And Mr. Izagiri is here. Mr. Izagiri, would you care to comment for the Commissioner's Court on the status of the condition of the sheriff's office at the Toledo Street facility as far as cleanliness goes?
But it's gonna be, we're gonna have to clean, I mean, it's gonna have to be cleaned. We cleaned one room on Friday where the equipment's supposed to be at, but other stuff, there's a lot of chairs, there's gonna be a lot of cleanup that we can help at times, but there's times that we have to first handle our business on our side, and then, like I've spoken to Ms. Warnix, we can help her whenever we have the time, you know, and, again, we're down manpower.
So fine. Thank you, Mr. Izagiri. Mrs. Strada, would you call the sheriff right now and ask him if our trustees might be available to help move some of that heavy equipment? And the court will remain in session, and we will wait for that telephone call and that response, and then we'll move forward.
Judge,
No. Yeah, we can talk. run it this way.
Judge,
Yes,
may I
ma'am.
say? I will be back in town Wednesday, and I and my staff are willing to go in there and clean that building.
No, Ms. Warnick, that's perfectly okay, and I really appreciate that. And the practical reality is there probably will be some finer cleaning that y'all are gonna have to do just for y'all to be comfortable with it, but just hang tight. We're gonna find out right now. We'll get this
Yes, sir.
all figured out today before this Commissioners Court meeting breaks. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, probably the first, like, it's an immediate need. Okay. Mr. Ezekiel, how long do you think it'll take two trustees to move furniture from the sheriff's office area to, is there any reason why we can't just shove it all into the jail?
Wherever the court decides, I mean, wherever it wants to go, we can't, I know the old jail has no more room to.
No.
Inside that jail,
Toledo Street Jail,
we can,
how long do you think it'll take?
depends on what's, I don't know.
Let's say there's two good working trustees, they can carry, you know, they're like average, as healthy and as fit and strong as any of us at this table. 1 day, 2 days,
Couple of days.
really? And then
Week,
after,
I'll say a week, just so we can have that time to.
can we, and you're more familiar with the building, can we prioritize the room where the elections equipment needs to be,
Oh, yes.
moved in, and how long will it take to clean that?
It's already clean. Right now, it's clean. Shannon and I both went out Friday. She did most of the cleanup though, but, got there. And she, for the equipment room, it's good to go. I just need to change the locks. I need to call, ABC Lock and tell them to go ahead today and go there. And he said he would be able to rekey.
Okay, so he can rekey today. What
Yes.
about the electronic access? I know that was a question when we first were considering moving, to the Toledo Street. April 7th, was that the first meeting that you referenced in your timeline, Commissioner? March 18th.
Was that again? I'm sorry.
There's an electric,
Oh, yes,
electric
yes,
access that Ms.
that's,
Warren was talking
he said he
about.
could, that's more, I've talked to him about that, and he said you're looking at a bigger price range, because it's gonna take more time to take off all the old codes that all the sheriff's personnel have. So for right now, just to rekey that one room where the equipment room's gonna go at, and we've got a key that can bypass the
Can you
code.
deadbolt that door? Is there a need for that door to, the concern is that door has, there may be third parties that have access to that door, right? The door, the concern
That's the
isn't,
issue.
we need to have electronic access to this door. Do we know if there's any prohibitions against deadbolting that door? Is it a
The
fire?
main door with the keypad there?
Yeah, the fire exit.
That would be a good question for the sheriff's department, for the sheriff. I don't know if they want,
Do any of y'all know?
Probably is good. That's the only door I know going out the back.
You
yes,
have to have an entrance, you have to have two. So the front of the building, but if it's deadbolt from the inside, then in case of a fire, those in the
Yeah.
building can unlock it and go out, but nobody can come in.
for nobody.
Has anybody called the city with respect to the water?
I had no direction to do that.
Okay.
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
just want to let you know, as long as our equipment room has a deadbolt on it, that's all we need. The rest of the locks, I'm not concerned about coming into the building. It's just where the equipment's going to be stored.
I understand. Hey, Sheriff Southmead, how are you today, sir? Hey, I'm sorry to blow up your phone. We're trying to get to brass tacks here. Do you know if there's a keypad entry at the Toledo Street Jail? Do you know if that's a fire, exit?
I believe so. Yes, but it's not restricted for now.
Okay. All righty.
So, yes, there is a,
And y'all, and I hate to impose on you like this without any forewarning, but y'all would be able to commit a couple trustees to help get all the furniture that's still in there, in those sheriff's offices moved out, so we can temporarily relocate the elections administration building there.
Where are we moving them to, you know?
Some part of the sheriff's office, I'm not 100%
Just out of the
certain.
way?
Yeah, oh yeah, the furniture, yeah, I was thinking we could just put it in the jail, or
The jail side, yeah.
maybe in that big conference room that, I think there's 2 extra conference rooms when the initial concept of splitting the sheriff's office up into emergency management and elections office. I think there's one to the right of the main entrance. Maybe stack some of it there.
That or through the door and then that around the corridors over there.
No, we're just moving them out of the way there. We can figure something out.
I really appreciate it, Sheriff. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll give you a call back, hopefully not while this meeting is still in session.
Okay, yeah, just tell John or whoever, just give me a holler or something, John.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Bye. Okay, so the only other issue that's pending is, we did stop, intend to stop our, water and sewer services with the city. We need to call them. I think water and sewer is still on there. We need to call them and pull that back. April, if the will of the Commissioners Court at this meeting is to temporarily move, over to Toledo Street. You and I can do that immediately after the meeting in my chambers. What else do we need to discuss with respect to this particular issue before we actually bring it to a
Do we
vote?
have any more bids on?
We had Mr. Connor called this morning, and he referenced, doing it like he did the Galloway building, cutting it out, putting the bathrooms in and water foundation. That way it won't be more problems with the floor.
Well, once we get them situated, and I wish, Laura, that you were already situated, and I'm sorry that you're not, but once we get y'all situated, then, we've got a little bit more breathing room. But we do need to find a home for you. Ms. Warnix, I want to hear what other thoughts or opinions you have at this time, because I really don't want to have to call another Commissioners Court meeting.
That's all, sir. I thank y'all very much, and I think that'll give you the court time to really find out what all needs to be done to that building and make some choices and stuff.
Thanks, ma'am. John, the room where the voting systems are going to be, it needs to have a deadbolt on it. Does it have one already?
It does not, it just has the doorknob with the key, but ABC said he could rekey that to where nobody else can get into it, and just give the keys to Shannon, so she can give them to Mr. Mornix, and they're the only ones that will have access or key to get into that room. In order for us to put a deadbolt, we'd have to cut a hole in there and do all that, so.
And Ms. Warnick, did you hear that?
Yes, sir, and I'm comfortable with that.
You're comfortable with that?
Yes, sir.
If we can get that done today, if we can get, ABC out today, and I hope we can, John, how long do you think it'll take to move those? And I know we've got, I think the AC's working here now.
I hope so.
Do we have labor to get those machines out of the elections?
Sure, guys out right now. I can pull them out right now, just because they've got jury summons right now inside the expo, and all this rain we got, so the guys really are just kind of working on the arena and stuff. I can get those guys.
The equipment's still in the elections building, right? Okay.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, we can take all that today. I'll just, as soon as we're done here, I'll call Joe from ABC. He said just to give him a call. Shouldn't take him very long to rekey it, and,
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's really good, actually. What else? How are we gonna move this equipment?
we've got a trailer. We've got Ms. Warnick's, covered.
Oh, it's a covered trailer?
Yes.
Is there anything else that we need with respect to relocating y'all? Telephone system.
I think everything's still hooked up there now. I mean, where you can just go in there and hook up, or, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
that
because
part
I know that there was a lot that, I mean, because we've been trying to sell off everything and clean everything out of there, so I believe cables were disconnected and pulled.
Oh, okay.
You don't know that for sure, John? I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but we're you know, we're in that process. So that could have been already done.
Yeah. Well, wait, I think he was, I saw him a second ago, he might check the HR or, county, clerk's office, too. I saw him walk past the door with his son.
Great.
Mhm.
The old sheriff's building was never part of the B County's internet system. So we have no knowledge of whether they do or do not have internet. Our phones are internet-based. All we need is an internet access over there, and the phones are portable. Just unplug them from where they are, plug them from where to the new place. But the old existing phone line system was the old-fashioned copper telephone wire, and someone else managed that. I do not know if it can be easily reestablished that way.
This is Ken too,
Is that AT&T?
for internet too.
I believe so. But the cables, that was a direction, I believe, for us to pull those, and I think Craig might have done that. Like I said, I can't be for sure, but
Do we still have some little, hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots?
We never had hotspots.
yeah, not just random, the departments that need them have them and pay for them. But we don't just have extras.
Lower Warren does have her own hotspot.
Do y'all have it here?
I do not have hotspots. I have
Yeah, I don't
a
pay for
company
one.
I can rent them from that we rent our PoPads from, but I'd have to get a cost on that because it's usually for an election. I know that the other buildings, I think Candy has an answer for you.
Okay, hang tight, Laura. Hey, Craig. Got Craig Oliver on the phone now? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Craig, we're looking at moving the, elections administrators over to the Toledo Street Sheriff's Office, the old Sheriff's Office. Do you know, if there's still cabling in there to hook up internet?
I haven't been over there since the move. My guess is that they haven't done any, excavation or clearing, then I would say yes. As far as I know, the like Spectrum and AT&T marks should still be intact, as far as I know, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Do you know offhand if, who provided internet over there?
I believe Spectrum did, but both companies have, demarcation points in there, so that, I mean, either one would be able to offer.
Okay. How quickly can we, get that, resolved? And I guess really all we care about is internet. How quickly can we get internet resolved at the Toledo Street? And it needs to be #1 priority, most important thing that's going on in the county.
It would be dependent upon the time frame that, they would be able to deliver service. There is a third option, because both facilities do have a, private tower. It's not that far, we could do easily a 60 gigahertz point between the two, which would provide a gigabit connection between the two facilities, and it would only cost the county the amount of the hardware to do so.
And what's the cost of hardware to do that?
Roughly about $1,000.
And that would, in what tower, I'm sorry, I'm outside my technological
Both
desk.
facilities had a communication tower for incoming TV and I believe like their repeater system.
And how long would it take to get that set up and running?
Probably, I'd say probably about a week to get the hardware in, and it can take probably 2 or 3 hours to do the installation on both sides. So about 2 hours on one side to install it at the new sheriff's office, about 2 hours to bring it into the other facility.
Aside from the installation, I would think that if Time Warner does have a plug or whatever it is into that building, that with our relationship with, our corporate, account manager, Mrs. Cantu, I would think we would be able to schedule something quicker than a week.
I can't say that for sure, but.
Well,
we
yeah,
can
I
try.
know, but I would think so. Okay, Craig, what other,
We could have the equipment overnighted, but, I mean, you're talking about $200 or $300 for overnighting. So that's just another option, so. But I'm not looking at it as the cost of efficiency as far as the private lane, because we have just a one-time expenditure compared to a monthly service fee. But either one day, you should have the, just, those are all your options.
do we have any available, portable wireless, I don't know what they are, like hotspots or anything that the elections office could, at least run computers off of in the interim?
I do not in my department, but that is a possibility as well if you wanted to do cellular LTE.
What's the cost of something like that?
Usually it's about $110 a month for government.
And, how quickly could we get one of those units?
Probably, it would probably take about 3 or 4 days on the hardware on that, simply because the hardware is in high demand for LTE right now.
I saw some with Veronica in the auditor's office, and she said they had an electronic recycling company come in, and they took a lot of the wiring out of the computer room that they had there. So that's the only thing that might be an issue, and would have to be wired connected in order for them to internet.
Craig, how quickly can you go and look at the Toledo Street facility and report back as to the availability of wiring to bring internet into the facility?
We can look at that today as long as we have access to the building.
I can get you access immediately. So we're looking.
We can do that today and report back this afternoon.
So we're looking at about a week turnaround time regardless with respect to internet.
Probably depending on which option that you would like to use. Yeah, I would think so.
Any other questions?
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
in the past, I have been able to borrow or use the sheriff's office, hotspots. So if we needed something in an interim till anything else could be done, I could check with them, and I bet I could borrow a couple from them if I needed to.
Okay, yeah, I know Sheriff Southman will do everything he can to support, your efforts in this difficult time. Tell me this, Ms. Warnick. Excuse me. What, if you're in this, if you're in the Toledo Street facility for a week without telephones, how does that impact your ability to conduct business on behalf of the county?
It would not be well for our voters. That's the only thing, not availability by phone for them, which a lot of our calls are that way. But if we can get those hotspots, or I can borrow those hotspots, that'll operate our phones if I'm not mistaken.
Will they, Craig?
I couldn't hear.
She said if she can borrow hotspots from the sheriff's office, she can operate phones through them.
If the hotspot's supported, that as far as bandwidth needs, then yes, that would be an option as well. I'm not sure how those little hotspots tether to the computer or how they would create that, because the phones do not do Wi-Fi, so they have to be plugged in physically. If you want to do an LTE router, that's the LTE solution I was talking about, where it's an actual router using LTE service, but you have the actual hardware that you can plug into a switch to expand that to however many computers you need to use.
Because we're a digital phone system, how difficult is it to route calls to cellular phones?
Not difficult at all.
Ms. Warnick, have you ever done that before? Like during elections or anything, route your landline to the election office phone to one of your cell phones?
Yes, we have, sir. That's until Craig just did this last thing where we just forwarded it, we were able to do that.
You
That's
were
how we
able.
from home most of the time.
Okay, so you can do that.
Yes, sir, and we're willing to do that.
And, Mr. Oliver, can the equipment that's currently in use at the elections administrator office be relocated as well to be utilized, out of the Toledo Street? And does that complicate or simplify the process?
That's exactly it.
They can, any of our IT phone systems can be used anywhere that it can plug into an internet service, whether it's here at the county or if it's being used as a temporary office at home or another location. The complication of it is having an internet source and then being able to expand with multiple connectivity ports for that. So if you have 3 or 4 phones, you would be able to, you may be able to access, to be able to plug in all 3 of those into the same network or into an internet connection. So, that's the only complication to it. Which, for me, it's really not that complicated. We can usually figure out a solution and just, what would be the best solution, not compromising the quality of the service. So.
Tell me this real quickly, Mr. Oliver. Do you know, or can you ballpark or estimate or give the Commissioners Court a scale of the expense, or if Time Warner's cabling goes to our building, do they have a cost for coming out and making it go live again if it's currently dormant?
Usually, installation is usually no cost, according to whatever the term of the agreement is. Sometimes, if it's a month-to-month term, they may charge for an installation, turn up. So,
is month?
I can't speak for them honestly, but that's usually how things go in that area or field.
Is month-to-month an option that you think they might be willing to provide, should we choose to go that route?
I don't think it would be an issue with them. I mean, they do have month-to-month programs. It would just really need to contact our sales account rep and just explain the situation, and this is all we need. We just need a month-to-month service, until we have the permanent facility, rehabbed and we move back in. And that, I think there's no problem that they would have, help support what we need.
The upfront cost with respect to any of these potential options, the greatest upfront cost would be the LTE solution. The benefit to it is that once we get it set up and get the hardware installed, then there's no ongoing monthly service fees. Is that correct, first?
The LTE service would be probably the minimal cost. The hardware for that is about $700. Service is about $110. The hardware cost for the private connection from the new jail to the old jail is basically a single purchase for the hardware, which is about $1,000, and then of course the time to install it. And at that point, it's just service available.
What is that called?
It would be working off of the internet connectivity at the new sheriff's office.
What did you call that? I'm sorry, I got that confused with the LTE solution.
It's just a private point-to-point.
Private point-to-point.
Then we'll have that equipment.
And then, of course, AT&T here for Spectrum, but I'm sure they both have month-to-month, but it would be, probably subject to an installation fee, and then it would be probably higher monthly service, depending upon the package or anything, according to comparatively to their term options.
What can we do with that equipment, when we relocate the elections office back to their regular office, the private point-to-point equipment?
The private point-to-point equipment is usually good for up to 1.7 kilometers. So anything that we have line of sight to, we can repurpose that for. The LTE here is, once again, it runs off of LTE cellular. So I mean, wherever there's a signal for the carrier, you would be able to reuse that anywhere you need it. And that would be nationwide. All you have to do is just reactivate the service.
You said private point-to-point is how great of a distance? 1.7 kilometers?
Yes, sir. I mean, they do have another option out there that, but it's at a much greater cost. It's usually about a couple of thousand or so. It'll actually get you up to 3 or 4 miles.
Okay. So as I understand it, there's 4 potential, connectivity solutions. The private point-to-point, which is the highest upfront cost, but then no monthly cost afterwards, and the equipment can be repurposed, down the road. The LTE solution, which would have a upfront cost of between $700, somewhere around $700, and then a monthly cost of a little over $100. A hardwire solution, if it's still available, and you're going to be able to check that out for me today, which would then be the month-to-month cost to add that internet service to that physical location. And then, regardless of those 3 more permanent solutions, we're hoping Ms. Warnick can impose upon Sheriff Southmaid, and he has the flexibility to be able to provide a hotspot to carry you through this interim period. Did I adequately summarize all that, Mr. Oliver?
Yes, sir, that sounds correct.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions, Commissioner Sapp? No? Anybody in the audience have any questions with respect to this? Ms.
Laura. I do have one question as far as the sheriff's hotspot service.
Uh-huh.
I know it's through FirstNet, but does FirstNet utilize like the AT&T backbone infrastructure?
You're talking to a room full of people that are the wrong room.
Absolutely.
The direction I was going with that is that we're already paying for service on those hotspots, but if it utilizes the same frequency, which I'm pretty sure it does, because the gear that's actually it's irrelevant to your too. And I just thought about this, is we can take one of the hotspots that he has, remove the SIM card in it, and put it in the router gear for the other LTE router, and we can just reuse service that we already have temporarily using one of their hotspot SIMs. And that would save $110 a month for that service.
Okay. That sounds good, but we're all glassy-eyed here. We don't understand that mechanic, but that's okay. That would be a more cost-efficient.
I can save you the $110 per month service fee just by reusing the SIM card from one of their hotspots.
And do we have an available LTE router, or is that something we need to acquire, and how long would that take?
That would have to be required to purchase, so.
About how long would you estimate that, for a week again?
4 to 5 business days.
Okay. Commissioner Buddies, you had a question?
Yes, I have, what election's coming up in November?
Constitutional election, I believe.
Constitutional amendment.
That's it? For November?
The next one would be May.
Next year. A year from now.
Or October, isn't it, or January, the primary,
Later, but we're still waiting on.
all the way to May?
Yeah, we pushed that to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're being pushed.
push to the freeze, I think.
Hey, Craig, thanks so much. Let me get you off the line now.
One quick comment, Judge.
Yeah, okay.
I just pulled up the LTE router from a distributor, and we could actually have one here tomorrow.
Okay, great. But that would then require that sheriff's office SIM card, we would be using it on a long-term basis, and I don't know that they have that flexibility to provide us, to allow the elections office to utilize that SIM card for, 3 or 4 months, or however long it takes to get everything finalized. That's the only downside I see to that. But we could get another SIM card, and then it's $110 a month.
Yes, sir, and I can have that in 2 days.
The integrity of that system, of that connection point, is it equal to the other connection points?
It would not. It would be completely dependent upon the cellular network. So, I mean, you can see speeds of anywhere from 20 to 200 megs, depending on what the
and that's where the hotspot would be connecting into?
The hotspot will be connected at the old facility to accommodate where there will be in their offices. The point would connect back to the new sheriff's office and tap into the router there as a separate connection to that facility, so we don't compromise the security of the sheriff's office or the jail.
Okay.
But we have the equipment on premise to be able to do that.
And you think the private point-to-point, equipment cost is gonna be no more than $1,000 or no more than $1,500?
I do not believe it would be more than 1,500 at the very most. I think it's actually gonna be less than that, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Sure. Anybody? Ms. Warnick, do you have any questions for Mr. Oliver?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Craig, thanks so much, man. Let me hang up with you, and I appreciate it. I'll be in touch as soon as we break.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. I'll be in. I'm gonna hang up now, but I'll be in touch with you as soon as we finish up this meeting. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Craig. Bye.
Would you call the sheriff again?
Devil's in the details, right? Hey, Sheriff, I'm sorry to keep bothering you like this. I think this will be the last time, maybe, in the next 15 minutes. One of the things that we're struggling with is providing connectivity to the elections administrator, and we have a solution that should be, we have multiple potential solutions that can be put into place and active within the next 7 to 10 business days, so probably by the end of next week. The suggestion or the request has come up that maybe the elections office might be able to borrow one of your hotspots in the interim to be able to provide some connectivity for their employees over at the Toledo Street facility. And I know this is a cold call and a cold request, so I understand if you can't answer right now, but I figured I'd strike while the iron's hot and go ahead and see if you have any thoughts at this time on that, and what those thoughts are. Yes, sir. Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much, Sheriff. Are there any other questions with respect to that? Okay. Sheriff, I can't promise you I'm not going to call you back, but I'm going to go ahead and hang up. All right, thank you so much. Bye. Okay. Cleanup SO, offices, 2 trustees. Mr. Izagiri, I fully expect that you and your staff's going to have to assist that a little bit, and to the extent that we can, we're just going to have to make it happen. So if I have to take my tie off, I'll come over there and I can lift equipment and chairs just as well as anybody else in the county. So 2 trustees, maintenance, 2, ABC lock and key. I anticipate cleanup SO's office is 0 cost. I expect ABC lock and key rekey the front entrance. Is that correct?
The, room to the, where the,
Equipment room.
Just the equipment room?
Yes.
Okay, so rekey.
She said everything else was fine.
Yes.
Equipment room. I'm guessing that's gonna be less than 100,
Yeah,
maybe 150.
No, not even that much, it's probably gonna be right at 100.
Equipment room. 100.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
let me interject on the cleanup.
Mhm.
You realize we're gonna move unusable trash and junk into another room, which means we have to move it again.
Yes.
Is it possible to get Frontier to set a dumpster out front and just everything goes directly into the dumpster that we're gonna get rid of, not the stuff that's on, GovDeals.
What's the legal process for that?
Well, I'm not sure if we, is there that much,
Yeah,
is there that much trash in there?
And,
Or has a lot of the
make it
trash already been
unusable, like we did
disposed
this.
of?
Some of it's already been
You have to make it unusable.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
No, that was the.
That's too
A lot of
much.
the stuff
We,
is gonna be reutilized, clean reutilized, some of
Okay.
the.
We're gonna get rid of all
I
those
know I
chairs
can
in it,
get
there are hundreds of chairs.
I don't know.
That's why I'm looking at it. I don't want us to move it and clutter it back in the back end, and then we have to move it
Right.
again, so we're.
From my recollection, there's only that one room, as soon as you walk in the double doors in the front, the rooms to the right, there's a large one on the end. That one doesn't really have anything in it, it's just the one
With all the
there off to
chairs.
the right. And there's not, I mean, maybe 25 chairs, and some of those are gonna be reused into the front area. There's not that much.
There-
I
there
mean,
is-
I
we
would
have-
get
Open
in
up to
and
the
move it one day
departments to go
myself.
and pick what they wanted, that's what that is,
See, they-
because they already have
And
most of
they
the trash
cherry
out.
picked everything, and I agree with, Shannon. I was in there not too long ago, and 25 chairs is it.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a few desks in some of the others, but that's.
I just brought it to y'all's attention, that's,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And also
Good
for
idea.
Craig to make sure that the cabling, I mean, he needs to go check the condition of that, because, I have no idea if they pulled all of that out. So that could be another obstacle that is not being
Well,
discussed.
and the way they were talking, I'm sure y'all have spools of cable stockpiled, and to run a cable doesn't take that long. And they probably would wanna run their own cable anyway, then they know it's right.
Running a cable, a new cable is a challenge, because a lot of those offices in there were securely built to where the walls go all the way up to the ceiling, to the roof, where there is no ceiling access between.
So you don't have drop ceiling, so you can't just run cables along the inside of the drop
Well,
ceiling, but you could run.
No,
one
there
straight.
are drop
They're
ceilings,
drop ceilings.
but there's partition walls that
They're
secure.
secure.
But I'm sure that the wall sockets are still reusable. I don't imagine someone would cancel that.
That's true.
There is existing wall
Yeah.
sockets.
Yeah, there was a control room there, it probably had a whole bunch of cable that was there to connect all the, and that's probably what they pulled. Ms. Kenty, you said something about, something that we're not thinking about or not discussing, what was that? I didn't catch it.
Well, I mean, I always worry about, the large equipment, and using a facility of that size and there being major repairs going in there because somebody's in there now. So that's always a concern.
I don't think
Air
we're.
condition, that's my
Air
main
condi-
concern.
Yep, but either way, like I said, if we have the equipment in there, we're gonna have to keep the air conditioners running regardless. We really are, for
Right.
humidity control. So if the staff's in there, same difference, and they'll know if it's not working. The other repairs, painting, moving walls, that doesn't have to be done at all.
Just making some notes here, y'all keep discussing.
Judge, with regards to Commissioner DeWitt's comment on reading that paragraph, that other commissioners had a personal agenda. Commissioner, I'm sure you were addressing that straight to me. We've addressed this in prior years, and as a matter of fact, you seconded the motion to demo the building. So
That's correct.
I am referring back to that, and my concerns are moving back into that building. Whether it be a temporary or untemporary, and I know you're gonna read that one sentence that says that they could use that one off.
Since you brought it up, I wanna read this into the record. It's on page 5. While the existing facility is in decent condition for a 27-year-old building usable for office space and storage. So that's where we're coming from. This is unthought of whenever we made that decision. And I agree, I made the same decision, it was unanimous. We didn't know this was coming up. We have to be flexible. We have to be. And this is temporary. And there's, I'm not gonna say.
Actually,
No,
that was actually directed towards myself also. But in that statement, it says at the bottom that an engineering study needs to be done. Am I correct?
Well, let me read the last part of the sentence. The space needs for the county sheriff are significantly inadequate for both current and future operational needs. That's the paragraph that I'm reading. I'll read it again. While the existing facility is in decent condition for a 27-year-old building and usable for office space and storage, which is exactly what we're looking at temporarily, temporarily, just to get you guys going while we do what we need to do to this other building. And if I heard you say something a while ago, Mr. Cano said the best thing to do is do like we did the Galloway building, take the floor out, pour concrete, put it all back. Is that correct?
That was his suggestion.
Which is great.
Okay, I have 4 items with respect to, that I've written down, so help me to make sure that I haven't forgotten. First, clean up SO offices, 2 trustees, maintenance, 0 cost. Second, ABC lock and key, rekey just the equipment room, just change that, not add a deadbolt, but just rekey that doorknob, at probably $100 cost. 3, internet Wi-Fi, that's sort of the big monkey in the room. We have the sheriff's office can lend a hotspot until we get a more permanent temporary solution, and we have 3 potential temporary permanent temporary solutions. The first is the LTE solution. That's a router, $700 or so, and a chip for monthly cost that's going to be somewhere around $100 a month. If we run that out, let's say to September, that's what, $1,200, $1,300, somewhere around that.
More than the other.
We run it out to the end of the year, it's gonna be a little bit over $1,500, maybe $1,700, $1,800 for the year. Option 2, potential option 2, and these are all potential options because we still need to get a clear idea on 1, availability, and 2, the current status of the electronic situation there at the Toledo Street. Second option is hardwire, going back to either AT&T or Spectrum, hopefully Spectrum, probably Spectrum. I guess they're the same now, aren't they? Is that right? Yeah. But anyway, and that would be trying to get a month-to-month contract for those services. As far as the scope of cost of that, I'm not even going to ask because I don't know how they would do that. That's probably going to be over the next 8 months, the most expensive option. And then the third option is a private point-to-point. We have an estimated max cost of hardware, guesstimate of hardware to be around $1,500. The long and short of it is the expenses to get the elections office temporarily up and running in an alternate location is, when we consider it in the grand scheme of things, not a substantial cost on on a budget the size of the county. It's a necessity. It's not an option. We're not, just trying to figure out what would be nice or good. We have a need, and we have a need for immediacy that needs to be addressed. So that's probably the biggest single expense, aside from sunk man-hour costs, which are a wash from a ledger standpoint. Isn't that correct, Mrs. Cantu? So,
Yes, if it's done in-house, yes, sir.
so then number 4, the fourth issue is water and sewer. So we just need to get that straight with the city, and I'm fully expect the city will support the county in our efforts to make sure that water and sewer remains turned on and provided to the Toledo Street station, or Toledo Street office. I have no doubt that the city will work with us on that. So those are 4 items. What am I forgetting? What are we missing? What did we not discuss?
Here's the thought. Since it's temporary, instead of having to go through walls with those cables, they can be run along the baseboard under the doors. I mean, it's temporary.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Totally.
If that's where if
they need
to Spectrum, yes, sir. Yeah, I would think so. We just need to give IT an opportunity to kind of figure that out for us. But I really appreciate, and please let Mr. Oliver know as well, for the audience, I'm speaking to Mr. Parkman, who's behind the camera. I really appreciate just kind of giving the Commissioners Court this ballpark idea of what it is that we're working with. Obviously, if it comes back something is wildly more expensive, or the solution isn't a solution after all, we're going to have to have another meeting. At this point, I'd consider it, depending on the necessity and the need, making an emergency meeting, but I'll make that decision at the time that decision needs to be made. Number 5, relocation of the elections equipment can be done today. provided that the lock gets rekeyed. AC is on, electricity is on to the building, that hasn't changed. John, today, when you're over there, can you double check the facilities? Just make sure that we have working facilities, both men and female, or if it's unisex, that'd be even better. Then Ms. Warnix, what furniture and stuff do you need from your office in order to operate, to start up operations? And obviously, there will probably be some time, a week or two, where you're like, oh man, we need to move this bookshelf over, we have 20 banker's boxes of documents that we need to get over there that we can do over time. But to get you up and running immediately, about how much other materials need to be relocated out of the elections administration's building over to Toledo Street, should the will of the Commissioners Court be to temporarily move you over there?
As long as we have desks available and we can set our computers and stuff on, I think other than that, it'll just be some boxes of supplies, paper, our printer, that kind of thing. That's the main things that we need.
Is your printer, and forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head, do you have one of the big Kyocera printers?
We do, sir.
Because they'll have to move their equipment.
Okay, so Kyocera has to move the equipment. What type of printing requirements do you have for the next 10 days?
We have to be able to print voter registration certificates, reports, our DPS, things like that. We do actually have another printer that could be utilized, an HP printer that we could use instead.
Do you have ink for that HP printer?
Yes, sir.
And in a given week, how many pages do you print in the furtherance of essential elections administrator functions in a week like the next 10 days?
Right. Currently, probably 100 pages a week, depending on if I'm having to run reports for somebody that's buying a list or something like that. But nothing that we can't do off that HP printer.
And when somebody needs to print out like a voter registration card or something, is that something that is it same day service? If I was to walk in and say I want a voter registration card, or do they have to submit an application or submit some paperwork and then they have to come back and get the card at a later date?
If they meet the qualifications, we can actually hand it to them over the counter that day. It just takes a couple of minutes to do it, but there's certain cases that we cannot do that. It just depends on the scenario.
So theoretically, if it took Kyocera a week or 10 days to get your good printer, because I want your good printer with you, you need it, and that's a necessity of modern office administration. The court absolutely recognizes that. But in the interim, if it was necessary, I would think reports would be fine for your desktop printer, but if you need a higher quality printer, I don't know if your desktop is laser or inkjet, but the Kyocera is certainly laser, and so the quality is much better. It won't run when you highlight it. Would it be possible to once a day come over to your offices here before the Kyocera printer gets moved to print out those documents all at once, or is that hugely burdensome to you?
No, so we could do that, and actually we could actually print from that office and then just go pick them up. That's where our setup is at this time. But my HP that I'm speaking of is a laser printer, and it is networked, and then we also have a small desktop.
Okay, excellent. So Kyocera printer needs to be moved. Do we know if that's going to be what type of cost that might have with it?
I'm not really sure, sir. I wouldn't think there would be, but we hadn't done that.
It might be a call. When we have a printer issue and we need them to call out, certainly if it's warranty or if it's general maintenance, I'm sure that's part of our contract. It doesn't have a cost, but are there calls that we make where they have it stated, this is the hourly fee that it costs, off the top of your head? I understand that you don't have a contract.
No, sir.
You don't know, or, okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. No.
Okay, we'll get that figured out before the end of the day. What else, Ms. Warnix, what else might we need to be thinking about that we're not thinking about right now? Notices. What type of notices do we need
The
to provide?
only thing that the court, and of course that'll come down to when we start talking about repairs to the building, is if, once we start those repairs, is the rest of the stuff to come out of the office out of the way, if it needs to be, where we're gonna put that, because we have that big table, et cetera.
Yes, ma'am, yeah, and I'm presuming that at this point in time, anything that needs to be moved out of your office is going to go to the Toledo Street facility. And if we have to play a game of Tetris in the Toledo Street facility, my apologies on the front end to Mr. Izagiri, for that labor. Notices, what notices do we need to give to the public with respect to the relocation of your offices? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, sir, I will start having to post. I'll put it in the newspaper. I'll write an article for the paper and get them to put it in there, and also put it in the community shorts. We'll put postings on our doors and so forth. And, I could also look at possibly putting some temporary signs up that we've temporarily moved to that location, just like we did when we moved for the November election.
I know my office would be more than happy to assist you with that. We'll pull out the laminator, we'll get her done. As far as the newspaper notices, about what do those run? Are they, 20 cents a letter, or?
The community shorts, there's no cost for that. I put stuff in there all the time for that. And then if I get an article in the paper, a lot of times I'll write articles and submit them to them, and then they either reword them or use them as is. They don't charge me for that.
That'd be wonderful, that's excellent. Okay, so notices, relocation notices are taken care of. What other issues do we need to think about with respect to temporary relocation? Anything popping up? Anybody have any ideas, concerns, questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
How
sir.
many, and this is towards John, how many air conditioner units are on that building? I'm talking about the entire parking area, the whole building, jail and sheriff's office. Didn't I hear the words 15?
17, I believe, or something like that, 15, 17, or something.
So the
like that.
jail, we can actually shut down.
I'd have to get with maintenance, Mr. Aguirre, to
No,
find
that's
out if you can just cut one off, or cut that section off, or if you have to cut everything off.
And that's what I'm looking at. If
That's a great
we're not in the jail, we cut those units off, that'll at least lower some of the monthly costs to run that facility. And also, if we lose an AC unit, we can always pull one from there and put it at the backup.
Agreed.
That's all I'm looking at.
In the,
Also, the lighting. There's lighting back there that needs to be turned off.
Same thing.
oh, okay. As far as the lighting in the sheriff's office, ballasts are all good, fluorescents are working.
Looks like it's working good on you.
Do we know of any, do we know if the partition between the jail side and the sheriff's office side, if it's not gonna be a firewall, but if it's not hermetically sealed but close to it?
The concrete wall that
Goes all the way up, if I remember right, all the way to the ceiling.
So if we can, oh, that's
All
great.
you do is throw, and what I think Ms. Mornix is wanting is, she wanted curtains. But I think if I'm correct in assuming that, you would rather have a piece of plywood up in front of there just in case.
Just so you're not looking at it, that's the.
Well, the curtains wouldn't let you look at it, but there's still that chance of somebody trying the doors or whatever. So this would be, plywood would be completely.
Oh, to block off the
block
jail
off
side?
the jail side.
Okay.
That was just if we were gonna move in there like on a regular basis. But right now, as long as the electricity will lock that lock, because it stands open right now. And if we can find a way to lock that, then we don't need to worry about it.
Okay, and if we can just keep it closed, we can put up signage there. I can't imagine you're gonna have hundreds of people, coming into the building and then, trying all the doors, but I'm sure you'll have a few.
You may have some some past residents that want to go into business.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
imagine a 6-year-old boy. I can imagine me as a 6-year-old boy. I can imagine me as a 14-year-old boy, trying the door and maybe ending up locked in there. So that would be something that it'd be preferable if we could get that secured so nobody could access the jail on a whim. So I'm sure there's something we could do. Worst case scenario, maybe we find some chain and a master lock.
I think my staff would feel a little safer too.
Keep the ghosts away.
I've got sage for that.
Okay, y'all are fine. Ms. Warnix, your staff has sage, so you don't need to worry about that.
Yes,
All right, so we're gonna try to figure out how we can partition the building and to reduce the AC costs, so we can turn off part of the AC units. John, is that something that your crew can do, or is that something that we need to bring medical or somebody out to look at the
If they run all,
control panel?
I'm hoping, I'm gonna get with Mr. Aguirre, the maintenance over there, and I'll ask him to see if each unit, condenser, AC unit has a breaker where you can just turn the breakers off. So they won't kick on. But I don't know if they're all tied into one big breaker that controls all of them, or, like I know on top of the JC building, we've got those that each have their own breaker. So if one goes out, we just turn that breaker off, decommission that one. If it's down, or if we want to cut something off, we can just go to each breaker. But I don't know what it's like at the gym.
I'm reticent to say this just because I'm born and raised in South Texas, but it wouldn't be a bad deal if the next couple of days there's not a lot of rain, so we can get all of that done. But like I said, I'm very reticent to say that. What else do we need to think about? What else do we need to consider? What else do we need to decide on before we see if the will of Commissioners Court is to even go this direction or not? Okay, if there's nothing else at this time, if there will of any Commissioners Court, Commissioner is to make a motion, I'd entertain a motion to temporarily relocate the Elections Administrator office to the Toledo Street Jail. That's the new old jail, the one that we just moved out of last June. Sheriff's Office, I'm sorry. The Toledo Street Sheriff's Office component, not the jail. And to authorize the expenditure of funds at this point for internet Wi-Fi not to exceed $1,500, for rekeying not to exceed $150, to reconstitute water and sewer service from the city of Beeville, to relocate the elections equipment, to clean up the sheriff's office utilizing the sheriff, a couple trustees and maintenance, to relocate the Kyocera elections administrator printer from the elections administrator office to the Toledo Street Sheriff's Office building, to authorize the elections administrator to incur any costs necessary, although we anticipate there will be no costs, to provide adequate notice to the community and to the public at large. And one other thing, Ms. Warnings, we can also work with Mr. Oliver and get that up on the website. And to finally, to authorize Mr. Izagiri and Sheriff's Office Maintenance to see if we can reduce the use of all 17 units at the Toledo Street facility to reduce electric costs.
I will make that as a motion, Judge.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. All right, any further discussion? Okay, there's no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails, 3-2. Moving on. What are we gonna do?
Three offices will be available.
Ms. Warnix, 3 offices in the B County Courthouse have been made available for the use of your offices. Is there, what do you think about that?
I guess that's what we'll do.
Well, we haven't made a decision yet. I want to know what your opinion is.
It's gonna be, we can do that temporary. That will be across the street from our office. If we have to go over there, we'll just have to go and be around the construction until we can get what we need and so forth. I appreciate the commissioners being willing to give up their offices. Until we've tried it, we will have to have our computers and stuff in there, so we may displace some of their stuff as long as they're okay with that.
How long will it take, Commissioner Haggard, for you to make your space available to the elections administrator?
Should have already been done by now.
Okay. Haggard's office is available right now.
Mine is ready right now.
Thaddeus is available right Oh, y'all already did all this.
No, I mean, I don't have anything in there.
No,
They
no.
can just- I got two ducks on top of my desk.
That's what I'm talking about, because I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna want a clear desk. So how long will it take for you to remove everything from your desk and your space so that somebody else could come in and put their stuff up?
It'll be done shortly after this meeting.
Do you need assistance from maintenance for anything?
I don't know.
Neither? Commissioner Lenny?
I'm good.
Yes, sir?
We talked about their boxes and everything else that they're gonna need to move, where are they gonna put?
Was gonna be my next question too. Ms. Warnick, where will your elections administrator equipment, or your elections equipment go? Do you know?
No, sir, I don't.
And the space that it's in right now is, if I recall, about 6 by 10 maybe, with some portable, aluminum or steel shelving?
No, sir, it's about a 12 by 24.
12 by 24.
It's big,
I
it's a
thought-
lot of equipment.
We were still
The-
gonna
the
move the
climate
equipment
control
over there.
That was the first,
We just weren't
that was
moving
the
the
first
office
motion, to move the elections administrator equipment that needed to be
to the
climate controlled, to put it over there and lock it and give them the key.
Okay, so that's still good?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had already done the purchase order last week, and John has already talked to ABC, so that was already in motion.
Oh, okay,
I'm talking about the rest of their stuff.
okay.
The rest
My
of it,
space is pretty clear, if somebody's been there, I mean, I don't hardly have anything.
Perfect.
And I think you have an extra closet in yours.
their desks and things, where they gonna go?
Do they need us? Well, I would assume right now that since it's temporary, they would remain within the building until we knew what was happening with the construction regarding the floors and windows and stuff, and then we would have to figure something out from there. Because
Okay.
they're much too large to bring into those offices, what we have.
They won't fit.
No, we would have to utilize their equipment. I mean, our computer, our technology with their furniture.
We get all their stuff moved over today? Their computers, their telephones, because now that we're coming in here, all we gotta do is unplug Commissioner Badias' phone and plug in
Why don't
Ms.
they use-
Warnick's phone,
Why don't you use my phone?
because
Yeah.
of the
This
connection.
is my office right here.
Yeah, but,
No,
but
because
he's
it's
saying
connected.
that phone is connected. That's the phone.
Telephone
I got a
number.
brand new telephone.
Yeah, but that's just for y'all to use, when you have your office hours.
No, that ain't unplugging it, it's hooked
Yeah,
up.
right here, here it is office.
It picks up their own. I think I talked to Shannon
Can we
about
get
it,
that done today?
and they can use ours by their password. However, she has a program that's installed over there that will have to be brought over here. But other than that, they're just a matter of just signing on with their username and,
But the desktops, we're gonna physically move over here. Do y'all have desktop computers?
We have
Oh, yes,
to move our desktop so that we can utilize our software that we have. We
How many
cannot
desktops do you
use
have?
the commissioner's computers.
3 desktops?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and 3 phones. What else? You're still gonna have to do notices. At this point in
Correct.
time, is there any need to move the Kyocera printer?
I do not believe so. I can check with John and them. We might be able to print from there and just walk across the street and get what we need.
Okay,
They can use my printer too, don't have to walk across the street.
Big one in your office.
oh, no,
We
we
won't allow
run
that.
up to our paper limit.
maybe we won't allow that.
We'll talk about it offline. Thank you. Mrs. Gonzalez has, provided her printer, so we'll just let you use
One of
her.
the choices the judge can do, who does copy it.
It's the same money, right? It's just a different pocket.
I appreciate that offer, but we have to have specific settings for our certificate, so we have that all set up. We would just utilize ours.
Okay, and we can also, Ms. Kintu and I can contact Kyocera after this meeting and see if there is a cost and the turnaround time and the difficulty of getting it relocated over here. So cleanup at the sheriff's office, is that even an issue now? This room has already been cleaned, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the relocation will include taking all the boxes down, and then we're gonna physically relocate the shelving over to the new room?
No, sir. This time I told Mr. Izagari that we didn't need to do that. We could just take the equipment in there and set it in that room. That way the shelving wouldn't have to be moved, not knowing what we're gonna do on the building yet. Once construction, if that has to happen, then yes, we could move that over there too.
So just putting it on the floor?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure.
There's one shelf there that we can put some.
I mean, if it's all stacked up, it's something off the floor. I just have a little bit of heartburn.
Yeah.
If this stuff really is, and I know it is, so I'm being, this is rhetorical, but if it's valuable and expensive and costs us a lot of money, it's not something I would put on the floor in a building that we're not using all the time, because it'd just be one broken pipe.
What about moving some of those desks? Maybe they're not gonna use the desks that they have in their office, we can move their desks into that room and then slide them up on the wall and then set the equipment on top of that temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, I trust.
If we're gonna do that, we can just move the shelving. It's easier. It comes apart.
Okay.
There is, that's something.
I'm comfortable if you are, Mrs. Warnix, with, giving, Mr. Izagiri discretion. I would feel a little bit more comfortable if they're just even an inch or two off the ground, yeah.
That's fine, sir.
If it's gonna be, 4 to 6 months, that's a long time. Yeah, I just feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
Well, when I said that, I thought we were talking 2 weeks, but now that you're talking 6 months, then yes, I would be more comfortable with being on the shelving.
Yeah. Okay. What else do we need to talk about now that we haven't talked about, that we need to think about?
I guess once we know what we're gonna do on the construction side, we'll just make a decision about what needs to come out of my office, the rest of the things that need to come out of my office.
Yeah, we'll have to deal with that at a later Commissioners Court hearing. We're not ready to proceed on that, but with respect to getting y'all relocated, and getting you all the technological services that you need, I think technologically, we're good.
Yes, sir.
Physically, I think, are we good?
Other than what we already discussed.
And then from public notice standpoint, I think we're good. You, of course, I guess the commissioners will relinquish their keys to their offices for use by your folks, Mrs. Warnix. AC's not an issue. What else? I don't want to have to call another meeting on this. I'm happy to sit around and wait. I really don't want to have to do this again. Anything, Mrs. Cantu? Anything you can think of? Commissioners? Anything y'all can think of? Yes. Strata.
Do they need to get the building after hours?
Great question. Yes.
Oh, they need a passcode to get in the disalarm for.
Yeah, they need a passcode because they have a pass key with them.
So, Mrs. Warnix, we're gonna need to make sure that at least you and, if you, want to delegate, your employees, authority as well, access to the building after hours and on the weekend, we'll need to get you, keys to the exterior, doors of the building, as well as, set you up with a security code.
Okay, sir.
There should be nominal cost. Again, would that be ABC, or do we have excess?
So that'd be down at Mark, I believe.
Just for the keys, just for the,
the keys.
we have one extra.
ABC does,
Yeah,
like if we need extra keys.
Just a couple, oh, okay.
In my office, so don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only have one key in my office, but I do have a key to this door right next to the pad.
Okay, yeah, so that might not be a cost there at all. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Candy. What else you got? You sure? Anybody else? I keep waiting. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add that we do have records and deposits, so occasionally my girls do have to go into the commissioner's offices to get something,
That's a great point.
so.
Commissioner Biggs' office.
Mrs. Warnix, did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Commissioner.
and that's not a problem. Our records are, the equipment is the only thing that has to be secured. Everything else would be secured technology-wise, so
We're aware.
that's fine.
No, I really appreciate that. See, if I just wait, we keep coming up with good things.
It would be probably Commissioner Laney's office.
Lindy's office is the only one that has a big closet.
So, Ms. Warnick, the office right next to the private staircase would be the one that would, probably have the most need to be accessed by the county clerk's office. So, you can set up as you deem fit with respect to those three offices. Does that make sense?
I don't know where which staircase are you talking
The
about?
one in the elevator.
North building, north door,
Lenny's office.
Commissioner Laney's office.
Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure how many that once we get over there and start moving it, how much we would need, but we'll let y'all know.
Okay. What else? I've got to go call a bunch of people now that I've got lined up. Is there anything else? Commissioners? Okay. So, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to temporarily relocate the elections administrators' offices into the Commissioner Hoggard, Commissioner Farias, and Commissioner Lenny's offices in the courthouse. I'm sorry, Commissioner Haggard, Commissioner Farias, and Commissioner Lenny's, what? Okay, offices in the courthouse, I guess that's really it, isn't it?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you all for your time and your consideration today. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
4, 1 against, motion passes. Is there anything further that needs to come before this August board on agenda item number 2? Hearing nothing, we're moving on. We do not have an executive session today. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. Thank you, everybody else, for all of your input.